Last line. The last thing mentioned was that seeds shouldn't be planted next to the wall. We're assuming now that that's because we don't want the roots to damage underneath the wall and make damage the wall, cause damage to the wall. The main one is so now we're saying that seeds you have to spread move away because we don't want because the roots obviously are spreading towards the sideways towards the wall. But we learn in Mishnah. If someone has a branch that he grafts into the ground, so it's sticking up, he turns it into the ground so that it grows into like a new plant. And when he turns it into the ground, it curves downward to the ground, goes into the ground, and pops up again as a brand new tree. So, person who's grafting this branch, if the soil above the buried part of that branch is not ritafahim deep, you can't plant a seed on it because then you'll be having two seeds, two different type of plants coming from the same nourishment or the same item that's colliding. But then we also mentioned you can plant a seed on the side of it, seemingly showing that it doesn't grow sideways. Questioning what we just said with our wall. Remember it says, the reason why in the reason in our case with the wall is not because of the roots going sideways, but rather the roots itself will cause the ground underneath the seed to become very soft, and that will cause the weakening of the wall nearby. Okay, but I need to do the actual roots growing sideways. All right, next question. A person should distances urine 3 tachim from the wall. A person's mutar to urinate on the side of his friend's wall. Right? They didn't have bathrooms back then. Right? The pasuk mentions that Hashem will kill every person from the house of Ahav, those that urinate against the wall, yani males. But last time in our Mishnah, you have to distance yourself from Rajahim. So is it a normal thing to do or not normal thing to do? Gemara says, Hatam b'shofin. Our Mishnah, you can't urinate against the wall doesn't mean one person urinating is very little. Our Mishnah is saying you can't pour up from the basin of urine from your house. It's a lot that will damage the wall. Tashma person should not pour water at the side of his friend's wall. Unless you have 3 tvachim. Questioning our Mishnah that something allows you to pour liquid by a friend's wall. Where it says, referring to a pot as well. Big amount is different than your one person urinating. Person should not urinate at his friend's wall. Clay bricks, which can get damaged. That stone wall, as long as you don't do it close enough to damage it. How far is that? But if it's a rocky ground wall, mutar, because urinating won't cause any damage. The question of the is that you can urinate no matter what type of wall it is. We say over here that it depends. Where it says, it's a good question. But 1 second. Rabbi brought a proof from the pasuk about Ahav that seemingly showed when a person is chayav because of the pasuk of Ahav that a person urinates by walls. The Gemara says no. Over there is meant even something that usually urinates against walls and it won't be spared. What's that? Kalba adog. So that pasuk could be referring to dog, not mess. Okay. Okay, this is some tum'ah. Very simple. Very, very simple. Don't get freaked out. Imagine you have 2 rooms that are adjacent to each other. There's a met in one of the rooms. So that room has tumat ohel of a met. And when it walks inside, there's tamet. The room next to it, there's no met. You're not chayav. The person's not come to met walking into it. However, if there is a tefach by tefach sized window that connects the 2 rooms, that is enough to connect the tumah. So now, if there's something on that windowsill that makes it smaller than a tefach by tefach, i.e. a brick is inside that window, then it's no longer big enough for the tumah to pass through per se, and therefore it won't go through anymore. Now we're going to bring down cases of things that are there but are not considered a block. So we mentioned a wafer that's like a cake, a cookie, does not reduce the size because it'll probably be used to eat or something or get moved, and therefore, even though it's there now, it's not considered a blockage. My area cakes. Why do you have to mention a cake? I feel about nami, even a thick cake. Why only a small cookie? Even a big cake doesn't reduce the opening. The Gemara says, "Look, buy come on." It's teaching you in a hidush. Let me buy. You don't have to mention the thick cake. Even the because a big cake person is for sure not gonna just leave there. He'll eat it. But maybe a soft, thin cookie becomes moldy. Maybe tell it and just leave it there. Kamash for Hidush is that he's not abandoning it and it's not good enough as a chatzisa, as a break. But typically they have a bar shell with one second. Maybe the reason why it's not considered a connection is because it's susceptible to tuma. Things that are made with let's say water is one of the things that makes something susceptible to tuma. Anything that's able to become tameh, if it's touched by the seven liquids, including water, and you make this through water, it's not considered a chatzitza. So if you put this cookie there, I don't care if it's a small cookie, big cookie, it doesn't make a difference. It should pass through. The Gemara says no. It was dough with fruit juice instead of water, therefore it was not eligible. Okay, metveh. Kupam and if a box of straw, or a jar of figs. I'm going to place in that window. We check it out. Anything that it would be removed, and the contents of the straw or the figs would stay without falling. That's considered an obstruction, and the tumah doesn't go through. But if it will not be able to stay without those containers, it's not obstructed. Where it says, I mean, even if it is able to stay there, but the person will use the straw. Like a person, the case of the wafer, you said, oh, a person will eat it. So to destroy, you'll give it to your animal. The Gemara says, Besaria, it's rotten. Hazlatina, you use it as clay to make bricks. If you use it, the Gemara says, no, it has thorns, therefore you won't use it for bricks. Hazlazaka, you use it as fire. The matuna is wet. And so if you use it as fire, therefore it shouldn't be a chatzisa. It should not be a chatzizah because you might use it. Or it says no, but when it's wet and therefore you're not going to use it. Hazaz you can use it for a big fire, even though it's wet. The Gemara says hazaz mashkiach not common, and therefore it's not considered. It's still considered a chatzizah. Okay, go to have hazaz. Okay, that answers the straw. But the dry figs you can eat. The Gemara says amar shmuel b'shiyah hitrikum. B'chin dem b'abav hitrikum. For the wormy figs that you're not going to eat. Okay, what's the case of this keg with the figs? Eat the pumala bar if the opening is facing the opposite side of the body, the bottom of the barrel is by the body and the opening is into the other room. He gufa tehus, that the keg itself should be a hatzitza. The hakli chayres ino mitane because an earthenware vessel doesn't pass tum'ah through the outside, only through the inside. And therefore, if it's open out away from the met, from the body, then there's no tumah passing through. The back will block it. The Gemara says, it's about the case where the opening is facing towards the corpse, and that's how it passes through. The Gemara says, even if it's outward, referring to the metal vessel, which is susceptible to tumah, whether it's in or out. Okay, next question. A person has grass that was put in the opening. Or the grass grew by itself in the opening. There was fabric that was not 3 by 3 size of a finger, it's very small. Or a piece of a limb or flesh hanging from the animal that's in this spot. Or a bird resting in the hole. Or a goy sitting in that hole. Or 8-month pregnancy baby that was born is in the hole. With the salt, an earthenware vessel. All these things are considered a chatitza. Now, we're going to explain one by one why those are not considered. And the Gemara know why are we assuming they're not going to be moved, right? We said a wafer is not considered a chatitza because it's going to be moved. All these cases seemingly should be moved, but yet we're going to have to explain why each one won't be moved, which is why it is a good chatitza. So now let's go through each one. In general, why is it a good chatitza? Because first of all, grass is not does not get tameh, therefore it can be a chatitza. Fabric also, if it's small enough, it's not considered a kli, and therefore it can be blocking as a chatzitza. A piece of meat attached to the animal is considered food, and therefore it's not tameh. Birds do not carry tumah. A goy also does not carry tumah. A baby who's 8 months old is not considered live, even though he's alive now. He's gonna die according to the Gemara, and therefore it's just a blockage in the hole. Salt not considered food. Earthenware vessels mentioned earlier, if it's facing the other way, it won't be doesn't carry tomato. And the last one mentioned was a sevitra is not considered a kli and therefore won't pass tamet. Back to the Gemara. Abahashadek, Bahabarat, Bahagalid, Bahakafor, Ramayim, snow, hail, frost, and ice and water. Kulan immatin bahalon, that's not considered a blockage, and tuma will pass through. Now we're going to go through each one. The grass. Be not going to use it for animals. The Gemara says, Frazata. Frazata is like a poisonous grass, and therefore you're not going to give it to animal, leave it in the hole. That's why it's a chatzah. Oh, the grass grew by itself. Given the if the grass is growing there, it's going to damage the wall, you'll move it. Therefore, it should not be a chatzitza. The Gemara says, either it's from a ruined building, they don't care about damage, or an answer. Even if it's a regular house. The grass is growing, so like those weeds that grow tall and lean over. So it's 3 tefachim away. It's just the grass itself is leaning into the wall window from 3 tefachim away. Next case, the matlonit, the fabric, has the you might use it for like a patch. So even though it's not big enough to be considered a kli because it's not big enough to be considered a garment, but you can use it as a patch. Therefore, it should be considered a tameh, and therefore it will be removed, and therefore it should not be considered a chatzitza. The Gemara says it's thick. You won't use it as a patch. The Gemara says you can use it as a bloodletter guy. They used to use it as like to clean the source of the wound. The Gemara says beriska, and it's very coarse, like a sackcloth, and therefore it wouldn't be able to use as a bandage. The Gemara says iberiska. A sackcloth, in order to be considered a kli, has to be 4 by 4, not 3 by 3. 4 by 4 tvachim. We said it's 3 by 3 finger breadths, but a sackcloth has special halacha. Minimum is at 4 by 4 tvachim. Gemara says no. It's a sackcloth in regarding to the thickness and the coarseness. That's not going to be a good bandage, but it's still a regular cloth that you need 3 by 3. Okay, but other the limb or the flesh hanging from the animal. The animal went away. Why is it not? Why is it considered hadza? The animal moved. The Gemara says b'kshura, the animal's tied up. Shahid, you might slaughter it. The Gemara says b'tmeah, you're not going to slaughter it. It's not kosher. You might sell it. The Gemara says no, b'kshusha, it's weak. No one's going to buy it. Maybe you'll cut off that part of the limb and give it to the dogs. The Gemara says you won't do it because it's going to cause pain. Next case, the bird resting in the opening. Okay, but it won't fly away. Why is it considered hatzah? The Gemara says b'kashul, it's tied up. Shahidla, you might slaughter it. B'tameh, not kosher. You might sell it to a goy. The Gemara says b'klanita, it's a very thin, fragile bird. No one's buying it for food. Okay, the Gemara says yahidla b'liuke, you might give it to your child to play with it. The Gemara says it's a scratching bird. You're not going to use it as a toy for your kid. The Gemara says klinita, but the klinita bird that you just mentioned is very thin and scrawny that you can't sell for food. Doesn't scratch. The Gemara says no. It's like a klanita that is very fragile and small, not good for food, but it's a regular bird that will scratch, and therefore you're not going to remove the bird. The Gemara says the case of the goy sitting in the window. It might move. The Gemara says bekavur is tied up. Maybe someone else will tie him. Untie him. The Gemara says he has tzarat, no one touching him. Okay, maybe another mitzvah guy will untie him. The Gemara says Ella maybe we're talking about someone who's a prisoner at the king who told him to be tied up there, and therefore no one dares to untie him. Next case. The baby who's 8 month pregnancy born there. Maybe his mother will come and carry him away out of mercy. The Gemara says b'Shabbat, the Shabbat where the baby's going to die, and he's considered muktzeh. The verse says the baby who's 8 month pregnancy who's dying is considered like a stone in muktzeh. You can't move him on Shabbat. Obviously, there's no way of saving him. About Imo, a mother who wants to relieve herself, wants to relieve herself from nursing because the breast milk is causing her tsar, causing her pain. She can lean over him and the baby can nurse just to cause her relief. But otherwise, the baby is considered muktzeh. Next case, smela. So, okay, if you use salt or food, why would you consider that not like a chatzah? The Gemara says it's bitter salt. Okay. You can use a bitter salt for tanning hides. Gemara says the ipekotzi, it's thorns mixed in it. Gemara says kevin it's all bad for the wall. You might move it. Gemara says the asaspa, this holds on top of a piece of earthenware, and therefore it's not going to damage the wall. Okay, haspa gufate. If there's a piece of earthenware there, then that itself will be blocking it. Gemara says no, the lipa shiura. It's not a big enough size. The Mishnah says in order for a earthenware to be considered a substantial size, it has to be like large enough to be the difference between putting two windows. They put a slab of earthenware between that's the thickness it has to be. Over here we're talking about a case where it's smaller and therefore is not considered enough to be a hatziza. Amen, amen.